Hello, here we go again. Daniel the naturopath trying to get some clarity, if possible, about the many forms of magnesium. So we see in the stores often new trends with magnesium, different forms such as bisglycinate, citrate, which has been around for a long time, carbonate, which is barely used anymore because of the low absorption rate, and then going on down to even more advanced threonate and other molecules. So we also have petallates and orotates, which are aspartates, which are coming very popular in Europe. But a lot of these different forms of the molecular magnesium are not foreign to the body, meaning that the body creates these forms in and of itself, but the body creates them in a different way, in a natural way. We call this the R form or dextrogir, and then you have the levrogir, which is the synthetic form, or we have this with almost all molecules. They follow this, especially with synthesis. We create these levrogir, these L form molecules. And then through fermentation, we can get closer to more of the R form molecules. But so anyway, they create these products outside of the body, but the body creates them naturally within. So how does it do this with magnesium? Well, a lot of studies have pointed to the fact that magnesium needs to be in contact with the body for over 24 hours for it to be assimilated, as it is kind of like a small metallic salt. And so that type of acidification or mixture with fat or mixture with a type of sugar or whatever it is in the body that it's going to allow it to be edible, I guess you could say, digestible by the body and the tissues. So this poses a problem if you're just taking magnesium chloride or something else directly in the mouth, for example, because it's going to run straight through you, and that's why it's kind of a laxative. That's why people, this whole salt water drinking laxative thing, which I do not recommend because it's so hardcore for the kidneys. But it's better to use plant laxatives than mineral laxatives in that sense, as they really load the kidneys, and that's basically what the kidney is doing. It's like, get this out of here, and so we don't want to like shock the system in that way. We want to find like a way to do things which has a different form of intelligence to it. And so just know that whenever you the threonate molecule, we'll pick one example. They sell this because they say it passes the blood-brain barrier, and it's like this highly weaponized form of magnesium or whatever. And I'm not against such an idea because, in medical situations, pathological situations where there's surgery involved, intravenous solutions to try to heal certain things on the fly or quickly, okay, there is some need for different types of wisdom about magnesium. I get that. But as a long-term, as a naturopath and as a long-term, more global, heal the whole organism type of perspective, using transdermal magnesium will bring the magnesium chloride, which is the base molecule that the body uses, into many different areas of the body, including the brain. Now, over time, this is like a 6 month to a year treatment that we're doing, daily, and this is building up and basically eradicating the deficiency. Now, how did they go without the deficiency in former times? Well, the soil was different. We didn't have all this, intensity that we have now with the soil monoculture and farms without, animals, just big, monocultures. And so, you have a whole different world here with this kind of industrial farming and no composting and just throwing a bunch of minerals everywhere, and soy used as a fertilizer. And then it pulls other minerals from the soil, which we need. So a lot of these mistakes, not giving the soil rest and not knowing how to do crop rotation, a lot of green wisdom, I guess you could say, has been lost. So, so a lot of these, this has given us a less optimal system. So if we look back in the past, they had a better system, but at the same time, the deficiencies, like if you look at just to go on off topic here, but I mean, on a side note, magnesium, the number one source of magnesium in the ancient world was bread. And the bread was made to a certain way where the magnesium became so assimilatable that one healthy slice of heavy bread was your dose. And that's all you needed. Now, things have worsened that situation over time with the rise of the consumption of sugar, the reduction of butter, and healthy fat soluble vitamins that you don't find in vegetable oils, etc. So there has been other things which have contributed to this sugar, this rise in sugar, and therefore needs for magnesium, coffee, stimulants, drugs, everything else, and just even medication and anything passing through the liver. It's like it all steals magnesium. So these things have worsened our situation, but at the same time, there is possibilities out there. Like the bread that I use, this sourdough that comes from Westphalia, Germany, has a little Jewish, little star symbol on it. It's served. You can find it at Whole Foods, and most of them, or if not, you can order them from the same Whole Foods because they have it in other Whole Foods. But this little bread, and it looks just like all the other breads around it, totally innocent. And you think, oh, I can get any of these, and they'll all work. They won't. So this is the right one, and the right one is coming from Westphalia, and the right one is not using malt or beet or any of these kind of cheats to make it look dark brown, because they're cooking it for 20 hours, and that's the way they do it, 16 hours minimum, and they cook these, and they have a natural browning effect that comes through the Maillard reaction. So this reaction happens at a slow cooking intensity. Now they also go directly from flour to production, that from grain to flour to production. They don't skip any steps and shelf and so the vitamin E is retained. And they also use a combination of rye and wheat, which and rye leaven, which allows for not only a better assimilation in the body, less glycemic load, more fiber, but also better soil. Because when wheat and rye are combined, the soil of these farms, and even historically, most of these breads were combined, especially rye and wheat. We've kind of made our challenges, we've increased them by just overly isolating the wheat plant as the only, these other cereals and grains were also meant to work together. So so this daily slice of this bread, and then other things, from seafood to, high mineral foods and fish eggs and different, and then the ways to assimilate that, which is the fat soluble vitamins from vitamin K2, emu oil, if you have nothing else. Otherwise, foie gras or, alpine ghee, and there's supplements for this. But so you do need some sort of, or alpine butter, and then certain types of, grass-fed ghee. But so there's ways to get these vitamins to assimilate in the body. And once you have that, then yes, you need less magnesium in general. But you got to get there first. And now you definitely have to go through a healing process, which I think takes 6 months to a year with the transdermal magnesium, as far as experience and what I've seen with people selling, hundreds of thousands of these bottles over the last 6 or 7 years. And so one of the things, as far as magnesium threonate, they say it crosses the blood-brain barrier, but when you eat anything in your body, your hydrochloric acid comes in there and tries to take it apart, when you digest your food. So if there's almonds, if there's bananas, whatever, chocolate, whatever you want to call high magnesium foods, which I find they're kind of like weaker magnesium foods. You can get more magnesium from oysters. But so some of these foods, they come in and the hydrochloric molecule, which has the chloride molecule, it attaches to the magnesium and it creates magnesium chloride. So no matter what you do, it's recreating magnesium chloride in the body anyway, and then it's taking that base form and going through acidification processes, through fats, sugars, and acids in the body to render that available, assimilatable, etc. And so then once we have that, we have an R-form threonate, which is in the body. And the body does use R-form threonates and R-form bisglycinates and all of these things. All of these things are just copies of what the body is doing that they've done for you in a lab. So we're trying to show you how And as far as the blood-brain barrier goes, when you're using transdermal magnesium on your head and scalp every day, this is feeding locally those cells. Those cells, once it's absorbing into the skin is a natural storage mechanism and definitely a natural system where the magnesium can stay in contact with the body for more than 20 hours, which is what's needed to break down that metal salt. And so that acidification or recombinant, like with sugar or fat, those things happen in the sebum. All of those things happen through the skin process. And so then the molecules can be created, but now they're local. They're right next to the source that they need to be aimed at, which for aluminum detoxification and certain things which are high, we're having much more, they're finding aluminum all throughout the brains of modern civilization. And, these things can be brought out through the chelation of the magnesium. So the magnesium can get in there and start chelating these things, these toxins, sticking to them, I guess you could say, and bringing them out. So that's kind of, the blood-brain barrier mystery kind of revealed. This is, don't let them overly, make it into a mysterious, impenetrable, fortress, because it's not. It's especially with natural processes that the body's been used for millennia. For millennia, we've bathed in these mineral-rich waters. Go anywhere, even in California. Go out in the mountains. What do you have? Hot springs, this springs. Look at all the names of the cities. They were all built, a lot of them, especially if they had the springs, were built around these things. So people knew, and we're just getting back to that, like our own ancient wisdom, and definitely Greek and Roman wisdom, because that was, they were much more famous, I guess, for that. And the bisglycinate's the same. So all of these, that's one side of the argument, is just that these things are recreated by the body through transdermal magnesium. The other side is that you need a high quality magnesium, because if 95% of the brands in America, even if they say Zechstein, are not coming from Zechstein. We've looked up so many different brands and we don't mention them, but we can't find accurate brands or non-dilution or on-site certification. All we find is off-site certification, people sending in it's hard for us to track this, but the good news is that the engineers behind all this, they know exactly where these things are coming from, because there's only one source in Holland. So it makes it very easy. So, but we don't reveal all of that to everyone, because we're not trying to name drop and harm others, because we do need everyone to work together to build this consciousness. There's a lot of people that need this. So it's okay, but try to seek out the best quality. So when you have a quality that is unsolvent extracted, even all the bisglycinates and even those threonates, the magnesium molecule that they're using is not carbonate. It's typically a chloride molecule. And so that molecule base is coming from a solvent extracted magnesium chloride, either from the sea or salts or mined or whatever. But the concentration of those salts, because of the pollution in the water today and the pollution in different areas and the extraction of potassium and things, that unpure forms of these strata that exist, then yes, you have to separate that, and then separating that causes solvents, and you have to, to where you can get that basic magnesium chloride molecule. So to get that down to that state, you have to do something to do it. And so the problem is that, this is a solvent extraction. The solvent extraction takes away the chelation power of the magnesium molecule. And so it weakens its effect of being able to pull these toxins out of the body. And then if it's stored in plastic, once again, it's going to weaken its effect to pull one of the biggest dangers in the whole system out of the body, which is our endocrine disruptors. Endocrine disruptors, which affect the hormonal system, they, due to soy and vaccines and, heavy metals, everything is deranging the immune system, plastics. And so these stick to that same molecule, and then they hamper its ability to pull those molecules out of the body. So you need to do it in glass, and it needs to be with the Zechstein inside logo, which means trademark, which means that it's coming from the actual source. And so this is non-solvent extracted. And why? It's because it's a natural state form. It's a soft stone called bischofite found in abundance underneath Holland in the Zechstein Sea. So you can't recreate this natural stone. You have to find it's like gold. The difficulty is finding it, but once you find it, there you go. You can't recreate it. Like at least okay, philosophically, the philosopher's stone. Okay, I get that. Like, turn pain into love or whatever that is. But on a real like physical level, this is not what we're doing. We have fool's gold and we have gold. So there's fool's white gold, which is what they call this in Holland. The government, the papers, the journals call it white gold, this discovery. So you can have fool's white gold and real white gold. So anyway, get the right stuff. Know that you can do these things without having to do internal supplementation. Yes, they can be combined. Your body eliminates all the magnesium. It never has too much magnesium in it because it always gets rid of it if there is too much. But you can tax your system in so doing. So the internal route, I feel, because it's one filter less than the skin route, allows for problems and errors. And did you take your B6 with it? Did you combine this and that with it? And all these combinations that have to be there. Kidney problems, people with age that can't even touch magnesium pills, and so you have a lot of other realities there. And then on top of it, the fact that this can address local things like you go straight to the cramp and you feed directly. So there's even studies now showing that cramps may be due to a deficiency of magnesium in the skin. The skin surrounding the area or whatever. So this goes back to our sea wisdom, bath wisdom, thalasso wisdom. So try to keep all this wisdom in order. And I'm not denying modern science, but I'm saying there's a way to do this at the street level for $20, $3 a week, and to get this covered, and then to find the right foods like the bread I mentioned, and to start upping our game on the diets, traditional foods, etc. So once we, this can be a downside of the paleo movement, too, is that, they can run roughshod over some of these, traditions that have maintained health for millennia due to some sort of gluten-free, like craze that I understand, but that at the same time covers up what could probably work for these same people, which contains gluten, but when it's done right. And so we don't want to throw God's foods or whatever out the window because we found a better way or whatever. We want to honor what's there and see what we've done to it and get back to the core of it. If the American society would focus more on getting the eggs, the milk, the butter, the salt, and the bread, and then the base meat, red meat or whatever, chicken, those 4 or 5 items there, if they would just concentrate on the power of those and getting that back in alignment, we could have a much smaller grocery store and be much healthier because the bases are covered. Now, that's the problem here is the bases aren't covered, so we have to redo everything. So, or relearn quite a bit. So anyway, hopefully that can be helpful to kind of discern and figure out what all this stuff is and who needs what. The magnesium, transdermal magnesium, Zechstein inside from Heart of Tradition. Come to our site, heartoftradition.com. It's only $3 a week. Can solve all of the magnesium level problems. If you want to take this, that, and the other for transit or whatever because you feel like that's the way you want to do it, then that's fine. I do believe, and maybe a sports person will take more, but typically the sports world has already replaced a lot of the pills with the transdermal because they've realized how much more effective it is. When a runner is running and he's sweating, then all that magnesium is coming out. But if it's stored in his skin before he's running because he's been using it for months, then that cellular saturation is going to allow him to keep more of it, have more of it by the end of the race. And so he's going to be stronger and less, cramping, less tendonitis or any other sort of like injury, etc. So bruising, etc. So it's, the magnesium is helping with all of that. That's what it does in the body, in the muscular system. It pumps through, it chelates toxins, acid residues, things like that, endocrine disruptors, heavy metals, whatever it is, and it brings it back out through the sweat glands. So sport, sweat, magnesium detox of heavy metals. They all kind of go together, but it's just kind of like the hidden secret. So anyway, check it out, heartoftradition.com.